Hey everyone, today's Real Talk is going to be all about college and school. Yeah, college. So I got a bunch of different requests for videos to talk about how I chose my major, my program, but also choosing a major in general. So I thought I would kind of combine that and tell you my experience and give you some pointers. So as the title suggests, I'm going to be telling you how I chose my major, how you can choose your major, a little bit about my program, and tips for ELED, elementary education majors. So the first thing is choosing a major, and this is for everyone. This doesn't have to be just for education majors, but for me, I knew going into college and way before then that I wanted to be a teacher. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I never really had to think too much about it. It was always kind of there in the back of my mind that that was an option for me. If I didn't find anything else, it kind of like trumped that. So I had a very easy time choosing that, but I know that a lot of people don't. It's a huge decision. I mean, to try and decide when you're 18, 19, even 20 what you're going to do possibly for the rest of your life is a huge decision, a lot of responsibility. It's pretty crazy. And if you don't really know what you want to do or what your interests are, that can be really difficult. So the first thing I would say is to not be afraid of going into college undeclared. For one, you have a bunch of gen ed classes, which are just general education classes that everyone has to take as basically freshmen and sophomores, depending on if you have any AP credits or how many gen ed hours you need. So everyone kind of starts out in the same place. Even if you go in declared, like I went in as a pre-elementary education major, and although there were a few classes, there were 2 classes my freshman year that I was able to take and like knock out. For a lot of people, that's not the case. So I would say for most people, that's not the case. You just do basic coursework, gen ed classes, electives, basic math classes, that sort of thing. So don't be afraid of going in undeclared, because even if you go in declared under a major, it doesn't have that much of an impact on what you do your freshman year. And speaking of gen eds and stuff, I would recommend, if you have no idea what you're interested in, or maybe you have a few ideas and that's kind of a problem, you feel like you have too many options, I would use your gen ed time as a time to explore. So for most gen ed classes, you have options. So it may be, okay, you have to take a Western history class, but you can kind of choose out of several classes what that might be. Or there are so many different categories. I know there was a category where you could take like sociology, psychology, like all of those social sciences. So there's a lot of options, and I would highly recommend taking courses that you are at least somewhat interested in, because I definitely think and feel like it will help guide you. Also, in terms of not worrying, you have a lot of time to choose, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily realize. They feel like they have to have their idea and their major planned out before entering college, and that's really not the case. Most people start their major as a junior, so you have plenty of time before you actually have to declare. So, I really, really, really wouldn't worry. And you know what? If you decide to change your mind, oh well, you may think, oh my gosh, it's going to add another semester on, I'm not going to graduate on time. But you know what? It's better to retake a semester and start over immediately when you know it's not going to work than go through the whole thing and have wasted all of those years on a major that you are not even interested in. You have a degree in a field that you don't want to be in. So it's better to push back graduation by a semester than to be completely out of luck and have wasted a few years. So now on to my program. I know it differs college to college, but I am in the elementary education program, which licenses you from basically from kindergarten to 6th grade. My program is a 4-semester program, and as you go into each semester, it increases in difficulty and the amount of time that you spend in schools. So for most people in my program, they start out as juniors. I started out as a sophomore, so I'm ahead. They block each semester for you so that all of the classes go together. So the first semester, you basically have your introductory classes. You would have a lesson planning class, a child development class, math for K2, a primary reading class, and I believe the gym PE health class. The next semester that you would take would be more of your methods classes. I believe that's what they call it. They call it an IMB block. That means nothing to you all, but it is when you take your upper level language arts, your 3-6 math, teaching science, teaching social studies, and I think literacy or reading. It's one of those. You take 2 kind of like English reading based classes, I believe. But so that increases, and then the next 2 semesters are part of your year-long internship. So the 3rd semester of the program, you are in a school all day for 1 day out of the week, and you're still taking classes. They're more, I guess, they're not so much content classes as much as they are kind of like other things. So I have notes, that's what I'm looking at, but it talks about evaluation, doing research and modifications for different types of learners, urban areas, those type of things. So you're not learning necessarily like social studies material or reading material. It's kind of how to adapt it to your classroom and more like how to teach and adapt as a teacher. But like I said, I will be in a classroom 1 day a week and you're kind of student teaching. And then the last semester of the program is you're fully student teaching. You're in schools every single day, all day with a teacher, and you are teaching lessons. You're there. You're a student teacher. So that's how it goes. So it increases in difficulty. And for my program, we have to have a minor, and my minor is reading education. So I'm majoring and minoring in an education field, which personally I think is beneficial. I would say if you are an elementary education major, I would highly recommend choosing a minor that will be an asset to that, unless there is a field that you are just, or a minor that is offered that you are just extremely interested in outside of education. But like I said, if you have a minor that will help you in the teaching world, I think that's better, and I think it boosts you up in terms of a resume because you are that teeny bit more qualified than someone who has like a random minor in something that's not going to help them as a teacher, if you know what I mean. So another huge thing that I should say about my program, and also a tip for elementary education majors, is that there is a ton of clinical work. So you could call it observations, but it's not all observing. You're in classrooms, you're working with small groups, individual students, you are teaching lessons to the entire class, you're giving assessments, you are pulling students for remediation, you are working with them and working with teachers and developing lesson plans and writing plans and revising and testing and quizzing and just looking at work and studying work and kind of doing a little bit of research and just seeing how classrooms work and what being a teacher is. So you have to go into it knowing that. I feel like that is a humongous thing that you have to know, and this leads me into my tips for the ELED majors. So for those of you who are in the elementary education major, you're going towards that, I would know that you are going to have a lot more work outside of just the normal college workload. Each semester you will probably have at least 30 hours of time that you will be in schools doing other work, whether that be tutoring, observations, small group work, whatever it may be. So you have to know that, and you have to plan for that, which is a huge, huge, huge thing that I would recommend, is planning your schedule so that you have a few days of the week that you are 100% free, or at least you have a lot of hours open. So if maybe you don't start your day until 12:15, then you could use those morning hours to be in schools. Or if you end your day at 12:15, then you could use the rest of the hours in the afternoon to be in schools, because you really need to have availability in the morning and in the afternoon, because schedules could be, all over the place. And school is only open, maybe 8 to 3-ish. That's generally the time. So if you're in school, if you're in classes all day from like 9 to 3 or something like that, whatever it may be, then you're not going to have any time to go be in school. So you really need to plan for that, especially as you get higher up in the program. Another huge tip that I would say is to get into schools and classes early. And unfortunately, there are some programs at some colleges where you are not even in a classroom until you start the major as a junior. And I am lucky enough to be in a program where first semester of my freshman year, I was in an intro to education class where we did 3 observations. So we were in schools for a few hours at a time, and I think it was 3, maybe more. I think I went on my own. But anyway, so I was in a class really early, and I feel like that's super important. Even if you're not in the major yet, if you're not in a class that requires observations, I would find a school on your own that you have some connection to. If you have younger siblings that are in an elementary school, ask to go sit and observe in their classroom, because you really need to know going into the major if you like it or not, because you really have to not only love children and love kids, but love working with students. One of the number one things that kind of makes me cringe when I hear people explaining why they want to be teachers is when they say, because I love kids. And please, if you want to be a teacher, don't say that. Yeah, you have to love children, you have to love being around kids, but it's different being around kids and teaching children. It's, they're 2 completely different things. So you really have to have patience and love teaching students and love education and really appreciate learning and education in general. There's so many people who are in my classes who don't appreciate the education that they're getting or the teachers that are teaching us, and I think that's really sad. I feel like to be a teacher, you have to really love and appreciate education. I mean, that's your job. So if you're one of those people who went through high school saying, oh my gosh, I hate this, I never want to go to school, I'm not going to do my work, you might not want to be a teacher. But if you're someone like me who has always loved going to school, you absolutely love the process of learning, it might be for you. It's super rewarding. I mean, I go into schools and I have been tutoring a student all year, and I have done so many observation hours. I mean, it's ridiculous, but I genuinely love seeing students work and learn and explain their work to me. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible, and I feel like that is how you should view it if you're going to be a teacher. You should love seeing children learn. So, yeah, those were all of my tips and all of my advice and all that stuff. I know this was a long video, but I had a lot to talk about. So tell me in the comments if you have any other questions. I will be happy to answer those. If you are an elementary ed major, tell me what your program is like, or if you want to be a teacher, what you're excited about, what you're worried about, and again, I can kind of talk to you individually about those questions or concerns, anything like that. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all are having a fantastic day, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye, everyone.